All right, well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for the virtual information session for the Masters of Science in Sport and Performance Psychology. This is set to be certainly among our more interesting programs that we have here. It's certainly a growing field in an area of high demand, and I personally am really excited to learn more about this. So whether you're watching live, you're watching the recording, we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on this honestly very kind of hot and sticky summer day. But my name is Tom Crash. I'm the Director of Graduate Admissions at Commonwealth U. And Dr. Ingram, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your professional background?
Absolutely. So I am Dr. Yvette Ingram. I've been at Lock Haven. I'll be starting my 25th year here in August. So I started when I was like 10, just so you know that.
Right. That seems right. I was just going to say 10, 11, 12, maybe.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I teach a mix of athletic training, master's program, sports psych master's program. I have freshmen in A&P anatomy. And over the last 25 years, I've taught a huge variety of courses. My undergrad actually was in health and physical education and athletic training. And then I did my master's work in health education. And then I went back and got a PhD in sport and exercise psychology.
Sure. Now, what are your research interests? If you had to pick a couple areas of specialty, what would you say those are?
Sure. Really mental health in athletes. So actually, I just got word today that we have another article published, so I was happy about
Oh,
that.
nice.
Yeah. So depression, anxiety, suicidal ideations, mental health concerns of athletes that a lot of the public doesn't even realize exists because they think they're athletes and they're healthy, and they don't understand all that goes into something like that. I think like Simone Biles is a pretty good example of when everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe she withdrew. She's letting everybody down." Like she is what we deal with every day in the world of athletics. It's not always what is she twisties, I think is what she called it, but that is kind of where my interest is, and it has been for 2+ decades of trying to keep the athlete mentally healthy as well as physically healthy.
Yeah. No, and that's why I think part of what makes this field so interesting is, you're looking at, a population of people who, you're right, physically on outward appearance look to be in peak physical condition, period. But you're not always going to get a full and accurate depiction just by looking at someone's, the physical structure there. So no, you're absolutely right. And again, this is certainly a growing field because of that. You hear a lot about mental health in today's day and age, which is good. So really kind of underscores the importance of a program like this and the professionals that come out of this degree program. So the event should take probably 30 or 40 minutes. And I see we have a good group watching live. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the Q&A. I will get them to Dr. Ingram. And this event is being recorded. So I will go ahead. I will turn it over to Dr. Ingram. She has a great presentation put together. But again, if you have any questions, please let us know as we kind of progress through the presentation.
Okay, so as Tom said, I'm going to go through this presentation. Please, it is meant for you guys. So if you have any questions at any point in time, please put them in there and he'll let me know that they're there. And I'm just going to go through unless I hear something through Tom.
Yes. Right? Yep.
Here we go. So this is, hopefully you're all here for the informational session on the Masters of Sport and Performance Psychology. And I guess why a Masters in Sport and Performance Psychology? I could ask 20 people and get 20 different answers. Everybody that gets this degree, I shouldn't say everybody, but there's so many reasons to get this degree as opposed to some other other ways that you could go. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're coaching youth sports. It doesn't matter if you're coaching college or professional sports. Having a degree in sport and performance is going to make you a better coach. Some of you may be saying, well, I'm not a coach. That's fine. You can go and be a certified mental performance specialist, a CMPC, and that is a whole career in and of itself, where there are people that call themselves sports psychologists or CMPCs, and they work as an adjunct with a team. So We have some instances where some teams will just hire someone out for maybe 2 or 3 or 4 sessions a season. And we have instances where, especially at the larger schools, where they employ a CMPC full time, and you can work there at those institutions. You could have your own business and be hourly sort of consultant. I'm sorry, I was lacking a word there. Where a parent nowadays, there's a lot of pressure put on youth athletes and middle school and high school athletes, and the parents sometimes think that it's the way to the scholarship. Like, we got to get a scholarship, because if we get a scholarship to college, then that'll catapult us to the pros. And some athletes don't handle that stress well. So you could end up working with some athletes and teaching them anxiety control, stress management, or you could be working on the other end of it and making them better performers. You can help them with their goal setting, their short-term goals and their long-term goals. You can help them be a better leader and a team player. So there's a lot of reasons why. I said before we started recording, my reason why was I was an athletic trainer, and I had all these athletes coming to me with problems that I wasn't prepared to handle. So I went back and got a PhD in sport exercise psychology. And it really has helped me treat, and I call them patients because I work clinically with the teams. So they are my patients. And it's really helped me see them as an entire person and not just the athlete they are on the field. So the why on an MS in sport and performance psychology, everybody's going to have their own whys. Some of you may be looking at it because you want to become a better athlete yourself, whether you're at a college level or a professional level. You might be using it to enhance your own performance. So you really have to answer that question yourself. But that's one of the things that I really like about the way our program is set up, is it's a very diverse group of people. So you will have all of those that I just talked about in your classes. And especially when you get into online discussions, that makes it very interesting because you're taking it from multiple perspectives.
Yeah, and I think that's important to keep in mind, because everyone is going to have a different goal, and this degree provides options. Oftentimes when you hear about people saying, "Oh, why do you want to go to law school?" Well, it's because you want to be a lawyer, right? Why do you get a degree in accounting? It's because you want to be an accountant. This is a program where it's kind of tailored. You can tailor it to what you want to do with the degree. There's not a lot of programs that are like that.
Exactly. And that's I think one of the biggest pluses of this program. And that kind of rolls right in here to our mission statement. We did just integrate with Bloomsburg and Mansfield. This program is housed on Lock Haven University, even though it's an online program. 4 of the 5 faculty who teach in the program are at Lock Haven. One of our faculty members is at Bloomsburg. But one of the things that we did when we integrated was we really looked at how we were going to tackle this. We're looking at using evidence-based practice medicine, evidence-based research. We're trying to get at all aspects. So the psychosocial determinants, we're trying to get at all aspects of performance throughout the 10 courses that you take in this program. And some courses will focus more on foundational information, while other courses focus more on advanced. And then other courses, even yet, will focus on that research part of it, where we actually get you involved towards the end of your program. We get you involved in that research. So we're trying to set you up so that you're lifetime learners, and that you're constantly asking the questions why, and that you're interested in reading that literature that's out there, that it will make you a stronger, better clinician. So some of the things that we value, I said already, the evidence. We base our classes off of the most current and published research. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is an absolute must, both in our classes, in our faculty, in the lessons that we teach. In fact, there's a whole course that you'll take on cultural and ethnic diversity in sports psychology. So we actually have dedicated 3 credits to it. We are very flexible. As Tom had said before, you can tailor this to what you want. So we're very flexible in terms of part-time versus full-time, and we're trying to capture both the traditional and the non-traditional learners. So we will have students who, in fact, I've accepted some this summer that will be starting this fall. We have students who just graduated with a bachelor's degree in May, and they're rolling right into a master's program. We have other students that have graduated 5, 10, 15 years ago, have been out in the workforce and now recognize a need for this degree. So they're coming back to the program or back to school. And we have those non-traditional learners. We have the full-time and the part-time student in our program. And that, I think, again, is just another example of our flexibility in our program. We are 100% online, and that 100% online is also asynchronous. So we do have students from, we're obviously East Coast time here, but we all have students from West Coast. We have students from other countries over in Europe. I have students coming in and asking those types of questions all the time. Well, how do I do this if I'm 3 hours away? Or this past spring, I had a student that was 6 hours different time zone. And it doesn't matter, it's asynchronous. Now you may have some partner assignments, but you're given those assignments early and they can be done via email or Zoom sessions at a time that's convenient for you, but it is an asynchronistic program. 30 credits, as I had mentioned earlier, 10 courses, so that's a 30 credit program. And you can start, again, another example of our flexibility. You can start in the fall, you can start in the spring, or you can start in the summer. We offer classes all year around for students to be able to jump in when it's convenient for them. Other thing I had mentioned earlier is about a variety of professors. So it depends on which class you're taking, but there are 4 of us that teach in the program on a regular basis, and then a 5th person who teaches 1 or 2 of our elective courses when we offer those. So we have faculty coming from a health and phys ed background or a psych background, a performance enhancement recreation background, and we try to incorporate our areas of expertise into those classes that we teach. Courses that we have, they're meant to, for those people who are interested in pursuing the CMPC certification. We have courses tailored to those knowledge areas, and I'll show you a list of courses here in a minute. We do have, for those of you that are fully committed, who want to pick up wherever you are and move to Lock Haven, there are some graduate assistant positions available on campus that if you are willing to dive in and do that, you may get partial or complete tuition waiver, depending on whether or not you want to dive in and move here. But those are, for example, a student may want to be a assistant coach for a specific team. And if they're assistant coach, then there might be a grad assistantship available for that person. So you can't coach distance, but you can, if you're willing to move here, you can do that. Tom, I see you came back. Is there any online assistantships that you're aware of?
There are, yes. There certainly are some offered through some of the different campuses at Commonwealth U and at Lock Haven. And we post all of our graduate assistantship postings on, and I can drop it in the chat if that is easiest. So Dr. Ingram, you can keep going forward and I will drop that in the chat.
Okay.
But yes, we do. The short answer is yes.
Thank you. So coursework, I had mentioned it earlier. So we have 21 credits. That is what we call our core. With the first course that we'd like to try to get people into is a research methods course, where you're learning methodology and the reading of and critiquing research. Some of you may already have a master's degree from another university in a different field, in which case you may have already taken a research methods course. If you've taken it and it meets our content, we can transfer those credits in and give you credit for that. And then the research that I was talking about on one of the very first slides is in this last course here, this capstone in sport and exercise psychology, or sport and performance psychology, sorry. And that is kind of like your cumulative project. That is, okay, I've taken all these courses, I developed an interest in, athlete injury or motivation or anxiety or whatever your niche turns out to be throughout your coursework, and depending upon what your job dictates. So that's a time where you actually do your own research with an advisor, and we try to help you through that research process, putting together an IRB application and getting approvals, and then data collection, which is always so much fun for so many students. That's Research is a test of patience. I say that to every student when we first start the project, because you lay out your timeline and you think that it's going to go perfectly, and surprise, it doesn't. It's not really a surprise because they very rarely go the way you planned them. So that's why I say it is a exercise in patience. And then you can look at some of these other courses here, the mental health aspect I had talked about already, the foundation or the foundational parts of sports psychology. So you'll talk about goal setting and SMART goals, and you'll talk about some motivation techniques and some anxiety reducing techniques. And then you get into the performance enhancement piece of that. There is a whole 3-credit course that is dedicated to athlete and injury and recovery processes. And then there's also the ethics in applied sport. Then we have, and each one of these courses will meet a specific area. If those of you that are interested in the CMPC, it will meet a specific area. Just for example, the mental health and sport and performance meets the knowledge area number 4 for you if you're looking at pursuing that avenue through ASP.
I'm sorry, Dr. Ingram. In your mind, what are some of the traits of a good student for this program? Like, if you're considering this and you're looking at some other options, like, what are some of the things that you have seen throughout your career that's like, oh, if you like this subject or this field, you might like to do this graduate program as a result? Does that make sense?
Yes, and that's a pretty broad question for me, actually, but I will say, if you like athletes, you like athletics, you like helping people, you want to make things better, this is probably the program for you. We look at things on both the individual level as well as a team level. So not only are you making that individual better, but you can also work at making the team better, make it more cohesive. Communication, for example, is often a problem amongst teams, especially when you get into the larger teams that have 30, 40, 50, or like a football team that could have 80, 90, 100 people. Communication is one of those things that makes it hard. Goal setting makes it hard. So we look at it from both perspectives. So if you like athletes, you want to help people, you'll find something in this program for you.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you.
Sure. So I mentioned some of the elective courses. So if I go back here a second, you'll see 21 credits here. And I said on an earlier slide that it was 30 credit degree. So you have the option to take 3 elective courses here. And there is a wide variety. So you've got anything from the cognitive and affective basis, which again hits a knowledge area number 7. And then we do a couple different, I mentioned the cultural and ethnic diversity class a little earlier. If you are looking at the CMPC, I would recommend the counseling skills. How do you deal with a person one-on-one when they come to you and they have problems, but it's also interviewing the patient and doing a proper intake. And then there's an elective of gender in sport, and how is that affected? How does gender play a role in sport? This is a new class for us in the program, and one of the advantages of the integration that we are able to use the expertise of one of our faculty from Bloomsburg for this course. So that'll be interesting. I know one of the things that she's going to try to cover is the transitioning athlete. So I think that will be a new avenue. That is something that we haven't had in the program in the past. You will also see here is the seminar course. And the seminar course, it varies from semester to semester when we offer it. We don't offer it all the time, but we try to offer it once every year or two. And it depends. The course will vary from topic wise. It's a generic syllabus that we can change the topic in it. So depending on when you enroll, if you're full time or part time, if you're part-time, you may have the option throughout your course here to take 2 different seminar classes because they're offered on 2 different special topics. And then the last bullet down here is the mentored experience. So it is really for those people that are pursuing the CMPAC. So if you're a coach and you're just getting this degree to make yourself a better coach and you don't see yourself earning that certification, then that wouldn't be an elective that you would want to take. If you're following that certification, you have to do 400 hours of internship, apprenticeship, shadowing hours. And so in that course, you can accumulate quite a bit of those hours through that course with one of our faculty members, Dr. Patricia Lally. So she teaches that and she works one-on-one with you as you're working with clients wherever you're located. And one of the questions I get a lot of times is, well, I'm not in Lock Haven. Can I still do that? Yes, you can. She does a lot of virtual stuff. You do a lot of recordings. You'll do your sessions via Zoom. So she will analyze those and give you feedback based on your recordings. So you don't actually have to be physically present here in the Lock Haven or Central Pennsylvania area to take that mentored experience class. Our alumni, we've got alumni everywhere, and a lot of them come to us already working in a sports setting. So they're using this to enhance their current position, but that's not always the case. So as I said earlier, we get some students who will graduate in May with a bachelor's and roll right into the master's program. And so if that's you, then you may end up on here somewhere. Or if you're already working with a team or a organization, you may end up on this list of alumni if you choose Lock Haven. I've already talked about this. I've kind of integrated this through, so I apologize, but ASP does do the certification, the CMPC. So we've talked about it a little bit. Universities will hire you either as like a team or as a department. And you could potentially work in the service areas, or we call them tactical athletes. So it says the Army Center here, but it wouldn't necessarily have to be just with the Army. Enhancing your own coaching experiences, I've already talked about. And then I also had mentioned about if you wanted to start and be your own consultant and see clients on a regular basis. So you could be a fitness consultant or a lifestyle coach. I feel like I'm talking so fast. Education and admissions process. So it is an online application and a bachelor's degree in a related field is what we say. But I will also say that we have students that are in the program that don't have one of these degrees, but they were an athlete in high school and college, and they write a really good professional goals statement of why they want to use this. And so they may have a background in accounting, but they're trying to change direction or change careers. And so they're coming back for a degree. So don't let that stop you from applying if you don't have a degree in one of these areas, because we do accept those who don't have a degree in these areas.
So, Dr. Ingram, when you are reviewing students for admission, what are you looking for in a good applicant? So I see obviously GPA of a 3.0 or higher. Is there anything else that you're looking for that you would qualify as a good applicant as a result?
I like reading the professional goals letters, to be honest with you. I want to know, what do you want to do with this degree? How do you see this degree maybe enhancing yourself or future athletes in your career? I really want to know why if we're going to invest all this time in you as a student, why? What do you want to do with it? I don't want to just be, oh, well, I think it might be better. This has interested me. I want to see what you want to do. Like, how do you want to affect people? How do you want to care for people, make people better? And as I mentioned earlier, I'm talking singularly, but this also happens with teams. So how do you want to make your team better if you're a coach? You know, when you're 18 to 22 going to college and you're playing a sport, whatever sport, I don't care if it's soccer, baseball, football, whatever, you're getting the degree that you think you want when you're 18 to 22. And then your coach or somebody changes your life and you change your mind and say, I want to go into coaching. And so you graduate at 22 with an accounting degree, but you don't want to ever use that accounting degree. I want to see, how do you want to use this degree to make those lives of your future athletes better?
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Tom?
It does. No, it does. Yes. Yeah. I think that, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What are some things on a resume? So if someone's thinking about applying, they're saying, man, I was an athlete growing up till, let's say, I graduated from high school.
Yep.
And I'm interested in going into this field, but I've never worked in sports psychology or performance psychology. Like, is there any prior experience expected when looking to apply?
So good question. So I don't look for anything specific for a prior experience. I mean, obviously, if they were a collegiate athlete, then I know that they understand the stresses and demands that are placed upon athletes. But it might be a professional athlete that's applying, and they really understand. Like, athletes start playing sports because it's fun. And
Yeah.
somewhere along the line, it becomes a job for them. And part of our job as people working in this field, sport to enhance them, is to try to get them back to the fun part of it again.
Yeah.
So what do they have on their resume that might help? Or what are their letters of recommendation saying about them? You know,
Mhm.
um, I, I don't care. It doesn't have to be a letter of recommendation from somebody in the field. It could be a former employer when you worked at McDonald's, but
Mhm.
they're saying you're a hard worker, you're dedicated, you take leadership positions.
Mhm.
I don't care where you worked. I'm looking for the quality of candidates, and I'm looking for those that are driven, because
Mhm.
this is a field that you're working with very driven people, very driven individuals,
Mhm.
and you need to be just as driven as they are.
Sure. No, that makes sense.
So I kind of already touched there on that professional goal statement. I did want to click just here a couple of places. Some places that I get questions often is cost and tuition. So there is both. There's two different places that you can find it. This is probably the easiest place. If you just go to Lock Haven's website, you can right up here on the top, cost and tuition, and then scroll down. You will see graduate tuition, and stay away from the physician assistant because they have a few extra fees that they pay. But that's one of the questions that I get, which is located, and we have to advertise it. So it will always be on our website. Should be easy for you to find. And then the other thing that I wanted to show you is our new website. I had said earlier that we had integrated into taking 3 schools into 1 school, and we're now called the Commonwealth University at Lock Haven, or Commonwealth University of Pennsylvania at Lock Haven. So we did new websites, and really we've taken the last couple of weeks and really have, I think, pounded this out. And most, if not all, the information that I've gone over, you can find here. But if you just go to Lock Haven's page and look for academics, you will be able to find it. And like, I'll take you through here. If I go to Lock Haven's page, and right up here at the top, you will see academics. Just click on that and it will go down, and you can click on the grad program, and that will take you to this page when you look for this. And pretty much everything I've talked about tonight has been on this site. We've just updated. So the one thing I would like to brag about a little bit here is that when it comes to tuition and costs, I'm scrolling the whole way down to the bottom because I'm very happy about this. Lock Haven is number 2 on their list. So that is something that I think we're very proud of here, is that we're able to be a quality educational program, and you're getting a lot of bang for your buck when you're investing in this program.
We're able to help you get to where you want to go without really burying you in debt, right? It's an advanced degree, right? So that means you already have a bachelor's degree, right?
Exactly.
So there's a likelihood that you have probably accumulated at least a little bit of debt as an undergrad. So the value and the return on investment for a master's degree is really important. So you will get you're not going to find better value at CU Lockhaven than you are anywhere else. I mean, it's truly outstanding here. So that's something to keep in mind. This is a good investment in your future career.
Well, and I also think in addition to the value, I'm not sure you're going to get faculty that care as much, to be honest with you. We have a really good solid core faculty here at Lockhaven
Yeah.
that we return emails to students. I hear some students say, well, I emailed about 2 weeks ago and I haven't heard anything from this other place. And I'm like, thank you for your quick response. And it's like been 24 hours and I feel guilty because I wasn't in the office the day before, so we get that a lot. And that's one of the things that Lockhaven, I think, really prides itself in is we're small and you will get to know your professors. I guarantee you of that. Even if it's an online program, you will still get to know your professor.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Ingram, but would you be able to talk about, so like when you're a grad student, your faculty interaction is a lot, you have more interaction, right, as a grad student with faculty. So as you're working with faculty at Lockhaven, what are some of their areas of interest? You'd mentioned, Dr. Lally and I believe Dr. Dauber. What are some of the classes they might be teaching? What are some of the things that they might be known as leaders in their field for?
Sure, absolutely. So let's go with Dr. Lally first. We actually have 2 Dr. Lallies on campus. So this is Dr. Patricia Lally that teaches in this program. And she is a CMPC. So she is kind of like our local expert for all questions related to the certification.
Mm-hmm.
She comes from a very psych background, undergrad psych, master's psych, sports psych, PhD in psych, postdoc in sports psych. So she is very much that psych-based person and does a lot of motivational research and does end of career working with athletes and transitioning them into what I'll say is normal life. There's really not anything that's quite normal, but those are kind of her 2 areas of interest. As far as classes that we teach, we kind of try to divide those up. Dr. Dauber, who is at our Bloomsburg campus, she is slated for this year to teach that mental health course that I was talking to you about, the mental health and sport performance. Mm-hmm. And she also works in gender studies area. So she is doing that sport and gender and sport course. Me, with my background, I'm doing the athletic injury recovery background. Dr. Lally and I both teach the foundations course and the performance enhancement course. So we kind of spread things out a bit. And you can just scroll down here to the bottom of the page and you will see the 4 of us that are in this department that teach, and you'll be able to click on each of us to see kind of like our backgrounds and where we are and what our interests are. Dr. Willett, I haven't mentioned him yet, so I will. He is the person who teaches our research methods course, and his background is more in performance. So he does a lot with exercise physiology, performance in that area. So try to spread out. So it's not always myself teaching foundations or not always Dr. Lally teaching foundations. We try to spread those out a bit.
And Dr. Ingram, we have a good question here. So for people who are interested in taking courses part-time, how much time would you estimate 1 or 2 or 3 courses would require per week? That's a very good question.
That's a great question, actually. So grad programs, 3 classes or 9 credits is full-time. So that 9 credits or 3 classes, 9 credits, you're expected to be a full-time student. So think back to your undergrad years. I tell students this is kind of how when I set up my classes. If we were meeting face-to-face grad classes, we would be what we call butts in seats in the teaching language. So we would be face-to-face for 3 hours a week. Plus, then you would have your readings and your assignments on top of that. So I tell students to plan on 6-ish hours a week per course that they take, knowing that there are heavy times and there are lighter times. So like with my classes, for example, you'll have a project or 2 to do. So that maybe the 2 coming up on that project, you might be putting 8 or 10 hours in those couple weeks because you've got a big assignment that's worth 20% of your grade. But then you submit that, the following week, you might be putting 3 or 4 hours in. But I tell students to try to think of it in terms of chunks of time of 6 hours per course.
Okay.
Mm.
No, that's good to know. And I'm sorry, and I know we had mentioned this earlier, but just to reiterate, so most of the courses they are taught asynchronous and online.
Correct.
Okay.
And a lot of like, so if there's discussion, because obviously if you were face to face in a grad classroom,
Mhm,
you would be reading these research articles, coming in and having discussion, right? So we do
mhm,
that same thing, but we do it online. And so like you'll have electronic discussions. So you'll post things and you'll have to have a post. I'm just going to throw out like an example, like you'll have by till Sunday to post your original post. And then
mhm,
maybe Wednesday, you've got to respond to 2 or 3 other people in your group or class. And then by Friday or Saturday, you need to respond to another 2 or 3 people. And
mhm,
that's how we kind of keep that ongoing discussion so that everybody doesn't wait till like the day before and try to post things, because then you can't have an ongoing discussion if everybody's waiting till right beforehand. So we try to spread that out to try to recreate a discussion, get involved, know your classmates, because when I said in the very beginning about how students come from all different kinds of backgrounds, I'm not kidding you when I say they come from all different kinds of backgrounds. So like I'm reading posts and I'm like, oh wow, that's pretty impressive that they have that kind of a background. So I'll comment on that and let them know that they're putting something into that discussion that I never would ever expected to come up in that discussion, but I love the fact that they put that in there. So it is, we do try to do that. I think in probably most of our classes, we have some kind of a discussion group type project activity.
What are some of the projects that people might be working on in classes? Is there you had run us through some of the coursework. What are some of again if they're like, can you think of any kind of like capstone project or any kind of key aspect of the program that might show up in some of the coursework?
Absolutely. I mean, capstone projects can be whatever. So, like, I'll give you some examples of my most recent one. I had a student who did jujitsu. That's
Oh,
hard for me to say. And
mhm,
so he wanted to see about anxiety levels starting out of class and how those anxiety levels went with the individuals as they went and took more and more classes. So he collected his initial data and then did a weekly data collection with them to see if, yes, we're anxious when we're first learning a new skill. Pretty much everybody is, right? But after you get the hang of that, does your anxiety go down? Does it help with your anxiety in daily life? That because you're learning these other skills, does it lessen some of your other anxieties as well? Um, Thinking of others, I had one last fall that it was a woman who was interested in um, the what was it? The attire, I will say, that cross country athletes wear.
mhm,
And I call them shorty shorts,
mhm,
but the spandex bottoms that are very, very short and very, very revealing. And so
mhm,
she wanted to see if the uniform or the attire had an impact on the athlete mentally and their performance. And so when you dig down deep into that, some people don't care. It's just clothing, it's a uniform, whatever. Other people spend a lot of time worrying about what they're wearing and what people are saying about them
mhm,
as they are participating in their sport. So it makes them a little self-conscious, and ends up affecting their confidence levels.
mhm.
So when I say diverse, I mean I'm talking diverse.
Yeah.
You can really do whatever you want. Social media, and I had one this past spring that looked at social media posts and filters that people were using. And
Mhm.
what were athletes using these filters? Because you hear about teenagers, especially teenage girls, using these filters all the time when they're posting pictures on social media. Well, were the athletes doing it? And if they were doing it, what were they filtering? What were they changing? What didn't they like about their image?
Yeah.
And so when I say diverse, it is extremely diverse. That is something you will be assigned an advisor for your capstone project, and that is something that you and that person work through. And it's a 15, 16, 17-week process to go from beginning to end, but is really something that you can take your knowledge that you've learned in these classes and potentially, depending, like if you're working with baseball as your current job, or you're working with soccer as your current job, you might want to see what the motivational levels is of the soccer players playing on the team. Like, you can make it whatever you want it for that capstone project.
Yeah, and it sounds like not only is that good for anyone who is, just recently finished their bachelor's degree and is starting this graduate program immediately because they're identifying interest, but also probably flexible enough for students who, or people who are working full time in a profession already, they're looking to enhance their current career as opposed to building a new one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great.
I had a woman this past, she's going to open up her own business. And so part of her capstone project was putting together a curriculum that she wants to use. She's going to advertise herself to teams in the area. And so she put together this big curriculum, like 77 pages
Oh,
of
wow.
what she plans on doing in these initial meetings. And that was her part of her capstone project, because we encourage you to make it something that's usable. Don't spend hundreds of hours on something that you're never going to touch again. Make it that it's usable for you in your job. And that's when, like you said, those that are already established in a workplace, it makes it really nice and really easy. Those, that are coming out and going right into masters, who knows, by the time you complete this master's, you may already be working in the field. So it's something that you can use to accentuate your current position.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm gonna probably end there. The only other thing I wanted to do is I want to scroll back up here again. So I showed you the click to the application. Again, on this website, here's the application process. And again, all the requirements that I talked about and were in the PowerPoint presentation. So you can come back to this website anytime, and all of the information that we covered is here, just in a little different format. My contact information is the whole way down here at the bottom. So feel free to email me. Email's better, especially over the summer. You can call and leave a voicemail, but I'm not in the office every day over the summer. Or if you have a question about the actual admissions process and you don't want to wait for me or don't want to hear back, admissions office is open every day from 8 to 4. So you can either email them or call them directly. And I will tell you that the people that work in the grad admissions office are gold. We are very lucky to have them there. So don't be surprised if you don't call them or email them in the morning at 8 and you don't have a response by lunch. I would be surprised. They are on the ball when it comes to that stuff. So please feel free to reach out to either of us. And Tom, probably you as well.
I work for we work for you guys being students. So yeah, anything we can do to help anyone on my team, we are happy to help and support in any way we possibly can. Dr. Ingram, we had a good question in the chat. Are there any scholarships specific to this program?
No, there are not at this time. Sorry. The best thing that we can do in terms of that is those grad assistant positions.
Yep, that's what I was just going to say. So, yeah, generally for grad students, and it's not necessarily a universal truth, but it's more or less a kind of a standard. Normally for graduate students who are looking to go to grad school, their form of or their method of offsetting costs is normally coming through the form of graduate assistantships. But that's where going back to the beginning where Dr. Ingram was talking about the cost of tuition and fees, we are already among the most affordable degrees out there to begin with. So as you're kind of looking at that, starting with the lower bottom line is really important too. But that is a very good question. Very good question.
And I would encourage you, if you are an athlete, come from an athletic background, even if you weren't, because it depends. Most of our sports here at Lock Haven are Division II. We do have Division I field hockey and Division I wrestling. We have women's wrestling, we have tennis, we have football, we've got basketballs, baseball, softballs, whatever. If you come from an athletic background and you're interested in a program, I would encourage you to contact the coach, and you would be able to find all of their information on the webpage under athletics, and say that you're looking to come and looking to do the master's program, and just curious if there was any chance that they would have a grad assistantship position open. I can tell you that I know from past experience, some teams do that. So I would encourage you to reach out to those coaches, or coaching is a small world. So if you know a coach that knows one of our coaches, then I would have that coach reach out, because that's a lot of bang for your buck right there. That's going to get you your foot in the door.
We have a couple other questions here from the group. What is the application deadline for those who are looking to start in the spring?
So we have a rolling admissions, which is good and bad. See some of these gray hairs? That's why it's bad. So we do accept students constantly, the whole way through. I would say if you're looking at the spring, I don't know the start date. Tom, do you know it right off the top of your head?
The start date normally for the spring is like end of January.
Yeah, I'm looking, it's probably January 22nd is probably the first day of class. So I would say get me something by the 1st, because you have holidays in there, you have people on vacations. Once you submit and your application is complete, I need to review it. It needs to be approved, and then it needs to go through multiple steps to get accounts set up, and so that you can register for classes. So I've been telling students we really like 3 weeks before the semester starts, so that we aren't trying to jam you into a class at the last minute. The other thing that I will say too is that we try to keep our class sizes small. So I know one of our classes for this fall, I checked the other day, there were only 2 seats left for this fall. So I will say, if you're a full-time student and you want to be a full-time student completely, the earlier you get that, the better, because you'll get to schedule earlier. If you're a part-time student and you don't necessarily care which class that you're starting with, then I think you could probably drag it out a little bit longer. But I would say give it 3 weeks, just because of all the processing that has to happen behind the scenes.
And to clarify, Dr. Ingram, are you still taking applications for this upcoming fall semester starting at the end of August?
We are, and I would like, same thing. I'm looking at hopefully the first week of August I'll have full class and being done. So within the next 2 weeks is what I'm hoping.
Okay, perfect. And we had a really good question here from Maria. Can you still apply while you're completing your bachelor's degree in case you want to transition over that summer after graduation?
Yes, you can. In fact, we had probably, I'm guessing, 4 or 5 students do that this past summer. So yes, please apply. And then what would happen is you would be accepted pending graduation from your undergrad, pending a 3.0. So you would get a letter saying that, so that once you were done, you submitted your official transcripts, you would roll right into the classes.
Yeah, and Maria, generally what happens is the student will, submit an application spring of their senior year, end of the fall semester of their senior year. And then, Dr. Ingram would conduct an admission review. And again, like you said, it would just be pending, successful completion of the degree. But that's something that happens in just about every graduate program we have. And it is very, very normal. So if you have any questions about that, if anyone watching live or watching the recording has questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Yep, absolutely. Great questions.
I will say one last thing. Let me think of this, because I don't know why I just popped it into my head. Excuse me. We've been talking about full-time and part-time, full-time and part-time. And I've been talking like it's 2 separate things. It does not have to be 2 separate things. And I'll use the example. Let's say you're a football coach, and obviously August through November is a crazy time in your life. You could take 1 class in the fall, and then the spring is much easier for you. You could take 2 or 3 classes and be a full-time student. So as long as you're working with your advisor back and forth, you can go part-time to full-time. And I would switch that. If you're a baseball coach or a softball coach and spring is your heavy time, you could take 3 classes in the fall and 1 class in the spring. We do have an option where you could step away for a semester, and then you you apply for readmittance if you totally step away. If you just drop to one class, you don't have to do that. But so you can go back and forth to what's convenient for your schedule.
Said. So I see that there aren't any other questions in the Q&A right now. So Dr. Ingram, do you have any kind of final advice before we sign off for anyone who may be considering this program?
I would say that I'm very proud. I think we are all very proud of this program. We have a very strong history here as far as athletics supporting. And if you go back to what I said in the very beginning, why should somebody do this? Because they want to support their athletes. They want to make their athletes' careers better. They want to make their own career better. And we have a very strong history of doing so. We have 4 to 5 faculty that teach in this program, which I think is tremendous considering we're a small school and there's only 10 classes in the program. So you do get a wide variety from different backgrounds. And I think that is really one of the things that I like to be proud of, as well as all the different ways that I've showed you about being flexible and catering to you. I don't think you're going to find a program out there that does as much for their students as we do.
I would agree. Well, great. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And if anybody has any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to Dr. Ingram or myself. Like I said earlier, we work for you and we are happy to do so. So we look forward to hearing from everybody in the future and hope you have a great night.
Thank you for taking the time to be in this call tonight.
Thank you.